Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Joker 2 premiered at the Venice Film Festival not too long ago, and the critics got a chance to go out there and watch it. And well, now their reviews are in. Now, this movie doesn't come out until October 4th, so a month before this movie premieres in theaters to the general public out there, the reviews are in. And needless to say, it is not looking too good for the Joker 2 movie. Now, obviously, a lot of people can go out there and talk about, well, we don't really trust the critics anyway, and a lot of people are still going to go see this on opening weekend just to find out how well it does and if it's actually any good or not, because, well, we don't trust the critics anymore. That's why channels like mine and so many others out there are constantly growing and finding new audiences, because we actually do try to give you our honest opinions about things, and we let you know the truth, and we're not paid access media. We're not shills that get early access and stuff like that, so you guys generally trust our opinions more than that, because we've seen how a lot of the time the news media out there will shill for stuff even though we all know it's really bad, just because it meets certain requirements that they think are more important than good quality storytelling and actually making money at the box office. Well, it looks like after Warner Brothers being absolutely desperate for a cash grab and in a sequel that no one really asked for outside of a lot of the weirdos out there in Hollywood, Joker 2 is not looking good. And do I blame Warner Brothers for making this sequel? Well, yeah, it is their fault. But at the end of the day, they're desperate for money. They've had a lot of flops. We know they've bled billions of dollars after the merger and everything else. They're still writing off a lot of stuff. And so they thought this would be a guaranteed hit. And it might still make them some money. As long as they didn't spend too much on the budget and didn't spend too much paying Lady Gaga to show up, this movie might still end up making a profit. But as of right now, things are looking grim, and releasing these kind of reviews a month before your movie even comes out, it generally spells a disastrous dumpster fire. So we're going to check out this article from over here from the HollywoodReporter.com, give you some of the highlights of some of the reviews, and also jump over to Rotten Tomatoes to give you that actual official score, because it is absolutely horrendous in comparison to what we normally see out of all the shills from Hollywood. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because the algorithm is absolutely hating us right now and we really could use the help. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Were you excited for Joker 2? Was the whole idea of it being a musical something that turned you off? Are you still willing to give it a shot and going to go ahead and take your own opinion out there? Or are you going to wait for somebody out there in your trusted circle to go out there and see it to find out whether or not you need to? Let us know what you think about all that down below. So HollywoodReporter.com. Mixed Joker faux de lieu reviews highlighted lack of excitement, underused Lady Gaga in the sequel. The film, Todd Phillips' follow-up to the Oscar-winning Joker, premiered in Venice ahead of October 4th theatrical release. Like I said, these are coming out almost a month before this movie ends up coming out. This is not a good sign. And the last movie was a $1 billion box office success. It was a movie that I loved. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought it was very well done. And it was very unique. And the audience wasn't really asking for a sequel for this kind of thing, because it's a very well self-contained story that doesn't need to go any farther. But of course, because they decided to slap the Joker label on it, now they want to do a sequel. They're bringing in Harley Quinn as Lady Gaga. And needless to say, it's falling flat. And since we're going to go ahead and mention it earlier, mixed a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is one of the weird things I kind of thought when I noticed this, when I tried to click this earlier as well. Where's the top critic score gone, Rotten Tomatoes? Are you trying to hide this once again so that way we can't use it in thumbnails and show off what all of the people that actually get paid to do this for a living do and don't just get paid by access? Because that's really what it feels like you're doing here. But either way, it doesn't matter. Even with all the shills calculated into the exact same number, you're still getting a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is an abysmal failure in the modern era with all the access media and the shills. Now, to give Rotten Tomatoes a little credit, maybe they just don't have enough reviews in yet to give us both of those scores, but that seems highly unlikely considering we've seen those scores from things with less than 43 reviews in the past. But like I said, maybe we're just waiting on more reviews to come in. But considering how the access media likes to do things, they might not want to talk about this movie. So we already talked about the fact we know Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga's in the movie and yada, yada, yada. But here's where things get interesting. So the Hollywood Reporter, where this article comes from, their own chief critic, David Rooney, calls it uneven, writing that while Gaga's performance is worthy of praise, the sequel falters by being narratively a little thin and at times dull. Okay, a little thin, that means this movie is boring. Okay, and drags out for a long time. There's probably a lot of sitting around and having conversations. And yeah, guess what? That doesn't really make for good movie or television viewing watching either. He noted that Phillips and co-writer Scott Silver in the first Joker had the sturdy bones of not one but two Martin Scorsese films, Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. That's what it's been compared to a lot, on which to hang their story and set their tone. This one is built on more of a conceit than a solid story foundation. Once again, the studio out there just wanting to push a sequel for the sake of a sequel, and I'm offering to Todd Phillips and everybody else involved in this and plenty of money to come back. And why wouldn't they want to do it? The last one made $1 billion. It just makes financial sense. Unfortunately, sometimes those financial senses and predictions don't actually pan out. So the Evening Standard here says, agrees with Rooney's take, noting the film lacks a frisson of excitement, it's boring, and a sense of madness taking control. It's dry. There's not all the crazy nutso stuff that we saw in the first movie. She adds that despite its fascinating and complex main character, the film is ultimately dull and plotting, taking us nowhere slowly. It sounds like this movie is a giant of a bore. Here why Vulture's Allison Wilmore says that Arthur just isn't interesting despite how much effort Phoenix puts into rendering the character in an exquisitely anguished mental and sunkenly chested physical detail, all the weight he lost to play the role. Even when Arthur thinks he's seizing control, he becomes a punching bag for the world, and more importantly, for the director, who subjects the character to so many indignities that he actually stops being pitiable and starts resembling the punching line to a long, shaggy joke. Like literally, the guy that was kind of came out of that first movie is like everybody's hero, is now just the world's punching bag. So this actually kind of leads credence to one of my theories about how like all of the musical events and showing him in makeup and paint and all that kind of stuff, just like handling the courtroom and the crowd and all that kind of stuff is probably literally all just in his mind. And then after those scenes are over, reality smacks him in the face. And he's just a crazy nut job out there. And I'm going to be really curious to see if that's actually how it ends up panning out. So The Guardian's Peter Broadshot opines Gaga is underused in the sequel, despite the fanfare that her starring role has received, pointing out that the film's story, as constructed, doesn't give Gaga's character much of a chance at development. Yeah, she's literally probably just in there for name only. They had no idea what they were really going to do with her character. They honestly probably had no real idea what they were going to do with this movie, other than that the check cleared and we've got to write something, we've got to put something together, and people like Lady Gaga, so let's bring her in. We're going to add a Harley Quinn, all of that kind of non-stuff. So they literally go through all of those ones. But there's only 3 positive. One's from NME, a website I've literally never heard of, The Independent and Empire. And it's one of those things that like they talk about it's a light script, even they're not saying the musical moments help the story writing. The unorthodox, unvarnished delivery of the songs from Phoenix and Gaga sells so much that a dialogue light script does not. But Baraka's Close to You has rarely been performed as chillingly. Yet, however, the first film was relentlessly so oppressive and bleak, this is an oddly hopeful tone to it. Arthur's performance for Once in My Life in particular is a curious blend of quiet menace and truly heartfelt passion. Let me translate that for you, okay? The music and songs were good, but other than that, I wasn't interested in the movie. That's literally what they're saying right here. The only compliments they have are the songs and the movies. And considering the fact that a lot of people weren't really all that too keen on the idea of this being a musical to begin with, how many do you think in the audiences are actually going to enjoy this if the rest of it, outside of the songs, is strictly boring and dry? Like, you don't get to a 60% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes without being abysmally bad. Most of the time, these things don't hit less than 70, 80%, no matter how abysmally bad they are coming out of Molly Hollywood because of the access media and their shills. Whatever has changed in the last couple of years, I have no idea what it is, but they are being more honest about products than we have ever seen them in probably in a long time, probably all the way going back for at least a decade at this point, since like the initial Disney Star Wars stuff happened, right? That's literally what the kind of change we are seeing, because even they at some point can't lie about absolutely everything anymore. Will they promote things? Will they push an agenda with their articles and their headlines? Absolutely. But at some point, a lot of these critics went, you know what? I'm tired of being made a fool of, because I'm literally disagreeing with my entire audience. The people that come to me for reviews, the people that come to me for honest opinions. And guess what? The people who pay my check, like at the Hollywood Reporter. Because that's what's changed, right? Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, The Wrap. These are established media organizations that actually pay you a check for reviewing movies, right? They're not the access media shills out there on the internet or out there on Twitter that you see pushing this kind of stuff. Like you see them pushing the Acolyte and trying to get other channels canceled and stuff like that from doing this kind of stuff, because we know they're rewarded in access. Right? They hate it when we say that they're paid in access. But if they're paying for your tickets to fly there, if they're paying for your hotel room, and they're paying for your food, also you can get exclusive content that will automatically push you up higher in the algorithm because you're the first one with it. They are paying you, homie. They are covering your bills. They are making sure you are available to the general public out there. They are giving you stuff that they're not giving anybody else. And the lie that's saying, oh, well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, well, if they allow us to say bad stuff, if we really truly feel like that, oh, yeah? Ask Geeky Sparkles and Neon how that worked out for them when they decided to disagree with things and start talking bad about Disney. Yeah, all of those access dried up real fast. So we know the truth about this kind of stuff, which means that's why this 60% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics is abysmally bad. That is a dumpster fire of trash. I mean, you literally look at it and the numbers are almost evenly split. 26 fresh, 17 rotten. And like we said, because we don't know which ones of these are access media and which ones of these are actual legitimate top critics, we have no idea to know how many of these freshes are strictly from shills that were only given access because that they were going to talk positive about this, because they've got a little movie blog and because they fit Rotten Tomatoes' criteria for diversity or whatever other reasons they get you in there as a critic. That's why this is funny. I hate to tell you, but as of right now, it's looking like unless something drastically changes on opening weekend, Joker Folie is headed for a box office disaster. Because if the critics are even half right about what this movie contains, about how boring and dry it's going to be, you might see a decent first weekend, but after that, we're going to see a decline like Captain Marvel or the Marvels. Like the Marvels, like what we've seen in the past of a couple of years. And that is the last thing that Warner Brothers needs to do. Do I blame them for making a sequel? Yeah, it's their fault. Is it going to be their fault when this blows up in their faces? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I can't blame them for making that judgment call. After something makes $1 billion movies, you're only bound to follow it up with a sequel to try and get it. I mean, hell, look at the Fast and Furious franchise. How long has that been going on? 10, 12 movies at this point? It's even more crazier than the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So this is the status we're in, boys and girls. This is what the critics are saying. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. And I guess, let me know, do you still plan on going to see Joker 2? Is this something you still want to go out there and watch, even with the critics going out there calling it boring and bland and drying? Well, let me know what you think about all of that below. As always, thanks for watching and enjoy the credits. We'll see you next time, boys and girls.